generation passing of the torch to the Yashida family as Mariko Yashida takes the helm from her grandfather who built this tech giant.
I know it will always be the goal for a corporation to make profits, but Yashida Industries believes we can also work with our community.
So, have you decided?
What?
Mariko says we can go wherever we want. Just say where.
We?
I'm your bodyguard. So, where do you want to go?
Let's just start with up.
And then?
We'll see. What's this?
Open it. Interesting.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Marvel Wolverine deleted scene video and new MCU Wolverine stuff. The director of the Logan movie was recently doing a big watch-along. He talked a lot about this yellow costume deleted scene because he's the one that actually filmed it. He went on to talk about the new MCU version of Wolverine. They also explained what was going on with that Weapon X Mr. Sinister post-credit scene. If you wondered what that was originally supposed to set up, big surprise, it was actually for the Gambit movie, so we'll break it all down. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs, so if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get everything. We'll do an Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know what you want them to do with the new MCU Wolverine's yellow costume. So starting with number 5, if you don't know what's going on, the director of the Logan movie, James Mangold, was recently doing a rewatch for the Logan movie and talking a lot about the history of the Wolverine character. He's also the director that filmed the Wolverine movie back in 2013. So out of any director, he's spent more time with Hugh Jackman working on the Wolverine character, developing him. So he's also the one that filmed this deleted scene with the yellow costume. Naturally, everyone was asking him about Hugh Jackman wearing it, what's going to happen with the new MCU version of Wolverine. So thankfully, he had a lot to say about that, just explaining what was going on with all this and what's going to be happening in the future with Wolverine inside the MCU. So in this deleted scene, Wolverine and Mariko have just defeated her grandfather, Silver Samurai, who had stolen Wolverine's healing factor. His adamantium claws had been severed during the fight. Somehow he had gotten his hands on a ton of adamantium, so his entire Silver Samurai suit had a bunch of adamantium weaponry. I remember there being all kinds of questions about Wolverine's bone claws and him getting him adamantium back after this movie came out so many years ago. But after this is all over, he and Yukio are headed back to North America when she boards the plane with a special parting gift from Mariko, like she used her tech conglomerate company that she'd just taken over from her grandfather, and all that extra adamantium that they had to create a special costume, armor, for Wolverine as a way of thanking him. Like giving him a special suit of samurai armor to represent his honor, but it's his yellow comic book costume. So he opens the box and is delightfully curious about it, not really sure what to think. He doesn't hate the idea of the costume, he just raises his eyebrow as Yukio smiles like shit is about to go down in the next movie. But number 4, you all remember what happened after this is the next movie was X-Men Days of Future Past. They had that post-credit scene that sort of set up Trask with Professor X and Magneto telling him about this big threat that was coming with the Sentinels. In all of Wolverine's scenes during that movie after this point in the timeline pretty much took place in that post-apocalyptic future. So there's this giant time jump in the beginning of Days of Future Past, so you never actually get to see him wear the yellow comic book costume. The way he explained that yellow costume is that part of the reason why you don't see Wolverine wear it in this movie and why they deleted this alternate ending scene is because this version of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine just aggressively hated promoting himself in any kind of fanfare. And 3, you also probably remember it's a big callback to the original X-Men movie where he makes a joke about them wearing the matching black uniforms, asking if they actually step outside in broad daylight where people can see them in these costumes.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
So it's not just the idea that Hugh Jackman's Wolverine hates wearing costumes, it's that Bryan Singer and the producers at the time they were making this first X-Men movie back in 2000 were deathly afraid of being comic booky and doing classic color uniforms. In fact, Kevin Feige told the story about this, about how people fought him tooth and nail. He tried to tell them just do the comic books because they'd have lots of questions about how to figure out scenes, how to get through character problems when they were filming the movie. Kevin Feige himself was a producer. This is a picture of him on the set of that movie. But he was relatively low level working at Fox. He was a producer on the film, but he was only an associate producer, so he didn't really have any power. So usually he said that he would stand in rooms during meetings with the producers, and every once in a while he would get a chance to give his input, but usually people wouldn't listen to him at that point. It wasn't until he became president of Marvel Studios and he started calling the shots that you really start to see his creative shine through in the movies. Since Bryan Singer banned comic books from the set, but Hugh Jackman wanted some comic books to study up on the character, he just wanted some insight, even though they were going with a slightly different version of the Wolverine character, Kevin Feige actually had to sneak Wolverine and X-Men comic books to Hugh Jackman in his trailer on the set of that movie. How hilarious is that? Kevin Feige defying the orders of Bryan Singer, sneaking comic books so that they can make the movie better. But later on, when they were actually filming this yellow costume scene, James Mangold said that Hugh Jackman never screen tested in the costume itself. They just made it as a prop for the movie and used it for this funny moment, this alternate ending. But in the Logan movie, when he takes X-23's comic books that tell the stories of their X-Men adventures, he appears in a version of the yellow costume. It's not the original yellow costume because they had to change it for some licensing weird issues with Marvel Studios, because at the time, Marvel didn't have control of the X-Men, and there were some rules about what the X-Men movies could use from Marvel Comics. But when Wolverine picks up her comic books and starts flipping through the pages, he claims that they embellish the truth and take everything to extremes. Like, yes, we all went on these adventures, but things didn't go down exactly this way, mostly omitting all the really bad stuff that happened to them. Like, the comics were turning them into the Saturday morning cartoon versions of the X-Men, which is also meant to be a reference to X-Men the Animated Series from the 90s. All those episodes are actually on Disney Plus right now, too. There's been talk of them doing some sort of revival in the future. But because of the missing time period between this movie and the post-apocalyptic future in Days of Future Past, I think it's safe to assume that at some point the Logan Wolverine character within the universe would have actually tried on the yellow suit, because it's not yellow spandex, it's actual real armor. So too, when James Mangold says that the next version of Wolverine will definitely be wearing the yellow costume, he's obviously talking about the new MCU version of Wolverine that Marvel will eventually cast. They haven't announced an actor yet because it's still really early, and because their first major solo X-Men reboot movie is years away, I don't think they're going to actually lock someone down for at least a couple years. I've already done a bunch of videos about the Weapon X Easter eggs inside the MCU already, and the Wolverine deleted scenes that Kevin Feige tried to work into the MCU. There was an X-Men deleted scene in the original Iron Man post-credit scene when Nick Fury is telling Iron Man about the Avengers. Kevin Feige also said when they got to Captain America the First Avenger movie, because they showed World War II during that, they wanted to include Wolverine in a flashback scene when he's saving the Howling Commandos, so it would have been a much younger version of James Howlett, Wolverine, before he'd actually gotten his adamantium claws. So clearly there's a grand history of Weapon X being set up in all of these movies, and in present day you have the Weapons Plus program with Thunderbolt Ross in the Incredible Hulk movie, and the upcoming Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes, which are going to deal with the Weapons Plus program. And it should go without saying, but the MCU version of Wolverine's yellow costume would also be a complete redesign too. This yellow costume is a good representation for what it's going to look like, because it's the only real Wolverine comic book costume in any movie right now. The number one, that Mr. Sinister post-credit scene with the Weapon X program was actually supposed to be for the Channing Tatum Gambit movie. It was supposed to set that up. Mr. Sinister was going to be the main villain of that movie. If you're not a big comic book reader, Gambit and Mr. Sinister actually go way back in the comics. When he was younger, Gambit joined the Thieves Guild, and Mr. Sinister hired them to steal the Weapon X diaries that the scientists used while trying to turn Logan into the Wolverine. So Gambit breaks into the Weapon X facility just as Wolverine is in the process of escaping. So Gambit and Wolverine cross paths back then. He steals the Weapon X research diaries, but decides they're too dangerous to give to Mr. Sinister, so he burns them. So when you're watching Mr. Sinister's team come in and steal all this data, genetic samples for Wolverine, that would have been a core plot element during the Channing Tatum Gambit movie, which kind of died when Disney bought the X-Men and Fantastic Four characters back. So currently the Gambit movie does not exist inside the MCU. They'll also do a new version of Mr. Sinister in the MCU eventually too. Originally, he was actually going to show up in the New Mutants post-credit scene before they stole him for the Gambit movie, the New Mutants movie that we'll hopefully be able to see this August. But hopefully that explains what's going on with this yellow costume, why they made it for this movie, why it wound up being a deleted scene, this alternate ending. It's still one of the coolest Marvel deleted scenes ever. So let me know in the comments, what do you want them to do with Wolverine's yellow costume inside the MCU when they eventually do debut their new version of Wolverine? Congratulations, Azane Martinez, you're the giveaway winner from my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your details. Everyone, click here for my brand new Marvel Ghost Rider movie video, and click here for that brand new New Mutants trailer and X-Men MCU breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.